Well, and we have a great guest that's making a return visit to Philly Press Box Radio, and play-by-play camp director Neil Hartman. He'll be joining us as well.
It's become something of an annual visit. Neil joining us. We will talk about his play-by-play camps, what's going on at Rowan, and of course about the Philly sports scene too. So he's here. Let's get it going, Bill.
Let's do it. Let's welcome back Neil Hartman to Philly Press Box Radio. Neil, welcome.
Thank you, guys. You know, when I hear Dan Baker make the announcement to introduce both you guys, Dan Baker is a 1968 graduate of Glassboro State, started a scholarship program in our sports communication media program last year. So Dan Baker is a proud prof. So it's great to hear his voice on your program.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show and an all-around great guy. You know that. Well, let's get it going, Neil, with a little Phillies talk. You know, the Phillies with now a 10-game lead atop the National League East. Who would have thunk that? What has been the biggest surprise for you this season regarding the Phils?
I think the quality of the pitching staff. I think you expected it out of Wheeler and Nola. Ranger Suarez, I don't think anybody could have anticipated he would have the year he's had so far. And Sanchez has been a quality fourth pitcher, beyond quality. So Taijuan Walker obviously hasn't gotten to that point. However, he did pitch well in that game in London. So I would say the starting pitching, and then I think the bullpen by and large has been pretty darn good. You've got a number of different arms, left or right, that you can go with if you're Rob Thompson. So I'm going to say that's the biggest surprise for me.
Well, Neil, 10 games up at this point, June 12th, 10 games in the lead. Who would have thought? How do you keep this team motivated so you don't take your foot off the gas?
Well, when you lose players, and they're losing some players here of some significance, I think everybody realizes, all right, we don't have JT for a while. We better pick it up. Stubbs is going to get a lot of playing time. I don't think he's ever gotten this much playing time in his career. So that's a little bit of an unknown. I mean, first of all, that's a really tough position to play. And to now go from maybe once every 10 days to playing, now you're playing every day. Boy, that's going to put a beating on his body. So, that's a factor. And then, let's see when Trey Turner comes back. And, just the injuries in general have been a little bit of a factor, which I think would motivate any player or any team realizing, okay, look, we're missing some of our big guns. We need to play really well at this point. But they have. I mean, and that's the thing. Look at Edmundo Sosa. I mean, look at Sosa. Look at what he has done in replacing primarily of Trey Turner. I mean, he's been unbelievable. So whoever you put out there, I mean, Cody Clemens, he came up. I mean, this Dahl guy, where did he come from? I mean, look, all these guys, you're looking at him, and you're like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Where did they come with this guy? So it's a fun team to watch. I love watching. I watch all the time. I mean, I just don't miss it because it's great entertainment.
I almost feel sorry for the Braves with their injuries to a couple of key players. I would get over it, but
I don't.
Over the last 25 games, the Braves are 9-16, so they're giving the Phillies a lot of help here in this NL East race. Is the race over? I mean, I don't know if the division even matters anymore, but is the NL East division race over, do you think?
This does remind me of 93. I covered the Phillies a lot in 93 when they pretty much wire to wire, own the division. And at that point, that season, I remember it was just inevitable. All right, we know, you're going to be in the playoffs. Now, the only concern I have is don't do what happened in, what was it, in 09? Was it 09? No, 11, right? 11, didn't they have the great year in 11 and then got knocked out? So I think you don't want something like that to happen because that would put a massive damper on what has been a remarkable season. It's so much fun to watch. Frankly, you go in every game watching thinking they're not going to lose. So when what happened on Sunday to the Mets in London, like you're like, wait, what? Like when they had, that rally in the ninth inning, you think, oh, they're going to win the game. They're going to come back. So that's kind of the mentality. I think right now, they're going to be their own worst enemy if they have to keep these arms healthy. That's what I mean. They're getting everyday players, but they're fitting in these substitutes pretty effectively. But if you lose a couple of those arms, that could be a whole different story. So just need to keep those arms healthy. I don't see anybody catching them. Go into the playoffs, hopefully playing really good baseball, and then show everybody what you're capable of doing. They should have been in the World Series last year, should have been 2 years in a row. Hopefully they'll get back there this year.
Yeah, and they have the footprint or blueprint right in front of them with the Braves last year. They didn't play a meaningful game after the All-Star break and then got to the playoffs and got wiped out. So, it's there. They know it can happen. But with that said, it's overall hitting is down. It's not even hitting season yet. I think this team's got a lot more offense to show. Well,
you guys mentioned it earlier. I mean, Schwarber with 2 home runs last night. It is, what is it, June 12th? June 12th? Yeah, June 12th today. Yep. So it's June 12th. But, maybe Schwarber's just a little behind. Maybe London put him a little behind here. But, he was swinging the bat pretty well. Look, his batting average is about 230 or so, 235, somewhere like that. Everybody wanted him to get a better batting average. He obviously has not hit the home runs as frequently as he has in the past. But look, if he gets going and gets a stretch here of 8-10 home runs, wow. I mean, you're doing all this damage without him doing that. So look, there's so many weapons and there's so many reasons to be excited about what the Phillies are doing. But to your point, Bill, is that you got to be careful because look what did happen to the Braves last year. The Dodgers, any great team that's been assembled has a good regular season, and then they flop in the playoffs. Boy, that would be so devastating for people in this town.
We're approaching the trade deadline, not imminently, but at the end of July. Do the Phillies need to make any moves, or can they just go status quo with the bullpen and the depth that they have right now?
Oh man, I don't know if you need it. I mean, when I pointed out some of the role players, the backup guys that have been coming up and doing a great job when called upon. Look, you always want a big bat that you can bring in as a guy in late innings in a ball game. But I mean, Dahl seems to have pretty good pop. Cody Clemens has pretty good pop. I mean, there's some guys there that have some pretty good pop. So that's always something that you're looking for. The bullpen, I think, is pretty much set again, provided everyone stays healthy. I don't see any difference in the rotation. You're only going to go 4 anyway. So I think they have that pretty much solidified. You got Turnbull, who's sitting there, who could be a guy that, could be a long reliever or in need. I guess his arm wouldn't be stretched out, I was going to say, to be as a starter. But look, I don't know if they really need to go aggressively after anything that's out there right now.
We had Jody McDonald on last week. Jody Mack basically said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, just leave it alone.
Yeah. And I think, too, a lot to be said for chemistry, Neil. So many of these players back from last year still have that bad taste in their mouth. I don't know if another player piece, you can't have it upset the chemistry that they have going on right now. It seems like from the outside looking in, these guys like each other and they're on a mission together.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Look, I'm a big culture guy, and there's no doubt about it. This team has incredible culture. What they were able to do the last 2 years, you saw it happening. You saw the relationship these players have. There's no doubt that this team is a very close team. They get along well. And to me, a championship caliber team, that's a huge part of it. You have to have the talent and all that. They do. But I think you also have to really enjoy playing together. And those guys seem to really enjoy playing together.
What do you think? World Series this year?
Oh, of course. I mean, it should have been last year. Should have been there. Yep. No reason to believe they shouldn't be there again this year. And, maybe this time they get it done. Maybe they finish the job.
I'm with you. Hey, let's slide over to talk about talent. Let's talk about that Eagles offense that they got going on with the addition of Saquon Barkley into what's already a pretty powerful offense. How do you like what you see? Obviously, only June. You don't win games in the spring. You win them in the fall. What do you think of this Eagles and the improvements they've made?
All right. I personally am not a fan of the Saquon Barkley move.
Wow.
That's just me. And the reason is because he's an immense talent. He's relatively, he's not over the hill or anything like that. He's got plenty, he's got some years left, but I'm just very concerned about him being on the field and playing. I just think If he's on the field, he's going to be a great addition. But I'm very concerned about having him there game in, game out. Now, you could say he's not going to be relied upon the way the Giants relied on him. He's going to have a better offensive line. He has a better quarterback and a better offensive weapon. So it's not going to be all Saquon, get the job done, do it. That might be all true. But I look at it where just his track record, and there's certain athletes, and I don't know what it is because it's probably unfair, but there's certain athletes that just seem to get hurt all the time. And he appears to me to be one of those guys that just gets banged up a lot. Now, I hope I'm totally wrong, and I hope that he is the guy that everybody expects him to be. But for me personally, I just looked at it and said, man, the investment you're making in that, I would have kept DeAndre Swift. I would have kept him. I would have tried to have kept him because it would have been cheaper. I still think he was a player underutilized with the abilities that he had. Here he had like 100 yards one week and then didn't use them the next week. And I think that was more offensive coordinator than anything. So, hey, we'll see if I'm right or wrong in about 5 months.
Now, Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal 2022 season. MVP runner-up, led the team to the Super Bowl. Tough loss to the Chiefs. Clearly did not have the same kind of year in 2023. Now he's got a new offensive coordinator. There were some rumblings recently that Hurts and the head coach, Nick Sirianni, might not be on the same page with everything. So what do you think of the relationship there? Sirianni as kind of a CEO coach right now. How's all this going to play out?
I think it's a little unfair with Sirianni. I think, the losing streak at the end of the season puts a target on anybody. I think Jalen last year, I don't think he was healthy enough to really evaluate his true ability, and he's never going to tell anybody that. And I don't know how seriously he was hurt, but he just appeared to be banged up to me, and just not the quality quarterback that we saw the year before. So I do expect a big year out of Jalen Hurts. I think he's a terrific leader and will play that role really well. Now, I'm going to go back and say you got Saquon Barkley. Now, I would have thought Swift could have done the same thing, could have been a really effective back if they used them properly. I think the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, coming in, I think that's going to really help. Having the wide receivers that they have, quality tight end. I think the offensive line, a little suspect. I mean, you lose a Jason Kelce, obviously that's going to be a factor, and guys are going to get beat up. I mean, Lane Johnson probably will get, beat up a little bit this year, and you'll lose a game here or there. But by and large, they've got a pretty good offensive line that they've tried to, rebuild over the course of time. I would expect big things out of the Eagles. I would. I mean, I think defensively, I'm still a little, there's some question marks for sure, but they've also kind of shored that up as well. So I'm encouraged. I think it's going to be a pretty good year.
Well, Neil, I asked Jody Mack the same question last week. When you lose Jason Kelce on the offensive line and Fletcher Cox on the defensive line, how do you make that up maybe in the leadership than, Kelce was still at the top of the game, but how do you make that up from a leadership standpoint?
Well, Brandon Graham, I guess if Brandon Graham's there, I'm assuming, then I think Jalen Hurts is a great leader. I do think it's time. I mean, he's not a young, he's pretty much an established player now, and I would expect him to have more of a leadership role. And I think he already had that anyway. So, and to have your quarterback as a leader, as a true leader, is a valuable asset for any club. So, I think it's time for some other guys to step up. Yeah, those guys had a long, leadership role, Cox and Graham and Kelce. So, I think it's time for some of the emerging players on this team to step it up and to take the leadership role, and I think they're ready for it. So it's kind of a changing of the guard, and it's time.
It's going to be an interesting season for sure. Hey, Neil, I want to get a few Sixers questions in before we talk about your play-by-play caps. Another disappointing season ending to the Sixers. First-round exit this time around. They only have really two of the main guys under contract right now in Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. What is happening with this franchise, and why do they always seem to, disappoint us every year?
Yeah, why couldn't they be like Dallas, right? Come out of like nowhere and surprise.
Or the Celtics. I mean, the freaking Celtics.
Well, the Celtics. I mean, they put a pretty good team together. I mean, Porzingis has puts them on another level, I think.
Yeah.
But Tatum and Brown have been there, so they've had that nucleus there, and now adding Porzingis, who's he's healthy, he's obviously been a big factor. But my point is, like, why couldn't they have done what Dallas did? And the truth is, they could have. But they were close. I mean, but they've been close every year. In getting to that. Well, this year they didn't get to the second round. I was going to say try to get to the conference finals.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. They got to have that third body, and who's that going to be? Look, the good news is they have a lot of room. They can maneuver. They can do a lot of things. I still think it's an attractive place for free agents to come. Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are two very dynamic players. But here's the other thing: that guy right there, Joel Embiid, he's got to stay healthy, just like Tyrese Maxey on the court. But Joel has got to stay healthy, and it's got to be on the court at the end of the game. Kelly Oubre right there, by the way, was a good pickup. That's a good pickup. So they've made some pretty decent moves. They just need to find that third key player that can be the difference maker. Tobias Harris was not the guy, and we knew that over time. Now they've got to find a guy that can be a true number 3.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because this is one of our ongoing conversations, Neil, and me and Chet are on opposite ends of the spectrum on this. They need to regroup, in my mind, and figure out how to run the offense with the thought that Joel Embiid can't be the only guy. Maybe he scores 22 points instead of 32 points, but they have to, knowing with his history of being injured, like back to Saquon Barkley, you got to be able to plan around them. They lost him. They were done.
Well, that's true. But look, I think Nurse is a great coach. I think they've got a really good professional coach that's going to be able to figure this out. Whether it gets them to the finals or even the conference finals, we'll see. But I do think he is a terrific addition. That's probably one of the best they've had here in Philadelphia in a while. Look, Joel, and again, you're exactly right, Bill. It goes back to that some players just get hurt. Do we not always expect when the playoffs come around that Joel is going to be hobbling around with some injury and it's going to be a factor in the series? It's happened almost every year. Yep. So I think the year they lost to Toronto, I think Joel was healthy, if I'm not mistaken, during that whole playoff series, which, and Jimmy Butler was there. And that was the year, that was the best team they had, in the Joel era. But right now, they have some really, really good pieces. I mean, look at Dallas. They're in the finals. They added a couple of pieces here and there, and now they've gotten to the next level. Can the Sixers do that? The answer is yes, but they've got some work to do.
Hey, speaking of the Sixers, I was listening to WIP today, and they've been doing the Mount Rushmore thing this week just for the hell of it. And they were talking about the Sixers Mount Rushmore, and I just wanted to punch somebody. Listen to some of the conversation there. You've covered the Sixers. You broadcast their games for a while. Who are your 4 on the Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia 76ers, Neil?
Wow. Well, I guess you got to put Doc and Allen Iverson there. I mean, I'm going to put Barkley there just because he's a good friend and he's a guy that I have a great deal of respect. I mean, is Wilt the Sixer? Is Wilt the Sixer?
That was a big question. Well, the fan voting from the WIP thing was Iverson, Irving, Joel Embiid, and Charles Barkley. No Wilt. Wilt came in number 5.
Yeah, because everyone thinks of Wilt as a warrior, and
Yeah, he did only play 4 seasons with the actual Sixers. He did win a title, won a couple of MVPs, but yeah. So I was surprised though that he only came in 5th. In the
mean, by the way, credit, but Billy Cunningham having won a title in '67 is better than winning a title.
Hal Greer.
Greer, great player. I mean, we just lost Chet Walker, just passed. I'm not surprised. Look, those polls, I worked WIP for 5 years and done my share of talk radio. Those polls are, it's probably going to be skewed a little, well, maybe I was going to say younger generally. But when I do that history of sport class, I do take a poll from the Philadelphia Inquirer of greatest athletes in Philadelphia. And there's a WIP poll that they did during COVID. They call it the Kings of Broad or something like that, Broad Street. And
the Goats of Broad, I think. Greatest
what was it?
The Goats of Broad Street.
The Goats of Broad. That's it. Yeah, great. Yeah, you're right, Chet. So I think the one poll is skewed older and the one is skewed younger. Mm-hmm. So that's the dynamic of doing those things. But look, Joel could be, if Joel won a championship, you're putting him on that list.
Yeah.
Iverson's always going to be on the list. Doc's always going to be on that list. Barkley could be moved on or off, depending on what he does. Look, I think of Wilt still as a great icon here in Philadelphia, as a Philadelphia player. So I would put him clearly on the list because to me, he's the probably greatest athlete here in the city of Philadelphia ever. So, and I, by the way, when I do these camps, we always talk about, greatest basketball player ever. And everyone goes, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. And now they get all these, the young kids today bring up all the players that are currently playing. But I always go, look up Wilt Chamberlain. Look what he did. Hey, look what that guy did. He changed the rules. They had to widen the lane. And he did all these things. The guy was an incredible track and field athlete. Try scoring 100 points in a game. Good luck. And not by hitting a gazillion threes, right? So,
right.
Wilt deserves to be on that list.
And he wasn't here long enough, but you don't win a championship without Moses Malone.
Yep.
No, great player. Unfortunately passed too young, but no question they would not have won one. And by the way, here the logo, Jerry West passing away today. I mean, there's another.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
You never bring up his name when you talk about all the greats. It is really difficult to do this because players like Jerry West, there's the logo. I mean, look at that, man. That's the logo. It's really difficult to pinpoint players like Oscar Robertson and the accomplishments he had. And, you throw out all these names and Kareem and all the points he had and Wilt and Michael and LeBron now, and you throw Kobe in there a little bit and all these great players. It's really hard to distinguish from one era to another great players. But I'll tell you, this is it's a great debate. It's great to talk about it, and that's why they do it.
Fun.
Oh, it gets everybody talking about it.
Well, I was talking with some buddies this morning about Jerry West, and, I knew that list was short of guys that are in the Hall of Fame as players and executives. Jerry's going in 2024 as an executive. I didn't know that list was one. He is it. The first one that
Pat Riley's been a heck of obviously as a coach and then as an executive.
Yeah. So-so
Pat
player.
Riley. I'm sorry?
He was a so-so player though, Pat Riley.
Oh no, it wasn't a great player. No, I'm thinking more as a coach and executive. As a player, he's the only one, right?
Yep.
Is that what you said? The only one?
Yep.
Yeah, no one really jumps out at me that was a great player. Oh, Michael Jordan, he was a great owner. And no, I'm kidding.
No, he was not.
So,
talk about sports camps?
Yeah, tell us about the play-by-play sports camps. You've been doing it for a long time now. I know last time we talked to you, this time, I guess last year, pretty much, picking up a lot of momentum. Is it still going strong?
Oh, it's going real strong, for sure. We started in 2001. Jeremy Treatman and Stephen Goldstein started the company. I was one of their first speakers in 2001. And then this is my, I think, 7th or 8th summer. I kind of lose track. But I'm a camp director where I go and I do a camp. And next week, I'm the co-camp director with Jeremy Treatman at Villanova. And then I go to Denver for a week. I'm there for a week. You're there for a week. So it's a long period of time. It's a little draining, but it's extremely enjoyable to see young kids and see their interest in this industry. And then I also go to Seattle, Washington, and Chicago, and Washington, D.C., and we have an advanced camp in Philadelphia, but we're in 14 cities all over the country. It's a really neat opportunity for kids 10 to 18 to, talk sports with their friends and meet new friends. And we try to give them some really some great guests that we have in every market, broadcasters and athletes. It's just a really, really neat time. I'm thrilled to be part of it. Looking forward to it. Next week in Villanova, to give you an example, we have 130 kids that will be there. We're sold out in Philadelphia. That was our cap. Yeah. 130. I think 50 or 60 are staying overnight. God bless those counselors that are staying overnight. In Villanova because I'll go home. But that's the possibility. Our counselors, they're either juniors in college or just recent graduates. Many of them have been through the program. They get to work with the campers, and it's a really neat thing. So if your son or daughter is interested, we're all over the country. Come join us.
Fantastic. And you run these all summer long, right? Basically, school just got out, so you're going from here till August.
Yeah, so they started in Dallas last week. They're in Florida, South Florida this week in Boca Raton. And then next week we're in Philadelphia, the following week in Denver. Some weeks we run the same time. I believe when I'm in Chicago, we have North Jersey going on. But yes, every week through the summer, I mean, we're coast to coast. We're in LA, we're in Boston, Atlanta. I mean, we're all over the place. So it's really neat to see the growth of the company and the way we've been able to attract so many campers. More than 1,000 campers are involved all summer at play-by-play sports broadcasting camps. So I'm really glad to be part of it.
One final question I have for you, Neil, along those same lines. What's you've sent us a couple people that we've had on our show that are up and comers and have become comers. You have any superstars lined up out there at Rowan, ready to hit the big time?
You know what? Look, I was a sportscaster for 35 years. Loved every part of it. But I am so thrilled that I have had an opportunity to be in higher education the last 7 years. I've been at Rowan University now 5 years. Our program, our sports communication media program, is growing leaps and bounds. We have 400 kids in our program now in just 5 years. We are attracting students from all over the place. Frankly, students that I meet at camp are saying, "Whoa, what about Rowan?" And they come. I have a student coming from Ohio. I got 2 from Virginia. I got 1 from Connecticut. I got a number from Pennsylvania. Obviously, we're a state institution in New Jersey, but it is just growing, and it's really cool to see the development of these students. Broadcaster-wise, keep your eyes and ears on Kayla Santiago.
Oh yeah, we know Kayla.
The Marva Sports Network in Salisbury, Maryland, but she also has done some work here in the Philadelphia market on digital platforms. So she is someone to keep your eye on. A broadcaster is a play-by-play person. His name is Aaron Hook. He's done 4 years of professional basketball with the Delaware Blue Coats, 4 years of professional baseball with Wilmington Blue Rocks. He is the best play-by-play person I've had in the 5 years I've been at Rowan. So those are just 2 that pop out right now, but really, these things are coming from high school with all the experience. And like, where did this kid come from? I had a kid, his name's Owen Colwell. He came from North Jersey, and we're in auditions for the Wilmington Blue Rocks. And we do these auditions, and we sit down, and you hear this kid do his audition. You go like, where'd he come from? Holy moly, this guy is really good. So we're developing them. But if they don't have any experience, that's our job to train them, get them ready, and of course, be really good students in the process.
Neil, great seeing you again. Hope we can keep doing this for years to come every June.
Yeah, well, look, I enjoy it. Always talk. I know it's summertime when I hear from Chet. I know it's summertime. Bill, it's great to see you. Congratulations on the wedding anniversary. Have a great time. When you got your big event coming up. What is it? Next week?
Next Sunday.
A week from Sunday, the 23rd.
Week from Sunday. Say hi to JJ, Joe Watson, Lou Nolan. You guys got a great thing going. So thank you for having me. There you go. There's my man, Joe Watson. Comes to Rowan every semester. Love that guy.
He's the best.
He's tremendous. So thank you for having me, and all the best to you guys. All right.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate you.